All right, welcome back to the Fit Freedom Podcast. I am so excited you are joining me today. I am super excited about today's episode because we have a guest on today. Chris Miles is the cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. He is a leading authority teaching entrepreneurs and professionals how to get their money working for them today. He is an author, podcast host of the Chris Miles Money Show, and has been featured in U.S. News, CNN Money, EO Fire, and has a proven reputation with his company, Money Ripples. He gets his clients fast, life-altering financial results. In fact, his personal clients have increased their cash flow by over $100 million in the last 9 years. That is huge. That's awesome.
It's kind of a big number.
That is a huge number. And Chris not only is the anti-financial advisor, I also coach with him as well. So I am super excited to have him on so he can give us some tips and tricks into how we can get our finances fit. Welcome, Chris, and thanks so much for joining us on Fit Freedom.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lisa.
So let's talk about, I know that you just took up, or about a couple of years ago, kind of started doing some running again, training for marathons.
Yeah.
So how did you decide to get back into that, and what's the journey been like there?
It's been an interesting journey because, I did running in high school. I only did running because I was super slow when I played football. Like linemen would run faster than me because I was just not a sprinter. So I did track to try to get faster and ended up finding out that long distance was more my thing. So I stink at sprinting, right?
Yeah.
So I started doing like cross country and stuff in high school and enjoyed it. And then after I hit my 20s and got married and started having kids, I stopped running as much. And then I remember I had a friend that challenged me. He said, "Hey, we're going to do this marathon, but don't worry. It's a lottery. You're not likely to get in, but let's just try it out." And of course I get in, right? And it was a super painful marathon. I mean, I ran it in just under 5 hours. I cramped up at mile 20 and either ran backwards or walked the other 6 miles of it. And it was pretty rough. And I did a few of those. And after a while, it just wasn't good. And I'll tell you, I was still kind of a little bit not super overweight. Like nobody would say I was overweight, but I knew I was, right? Like I knew that I was heavier than I should be. I was like, because I'm 5'9", I was weighing like about 180, 190 pounds running those marathons. And then I stopped doing full marathons, went to half marathons. And then I started to realize that as I ate better, right? I started eating more organic, stopped snacking at night. I actually exercised less and lost 30 pounds within a year.
Nice.
And so I dropped down to like 165, 170. I've been working out and stuff. And now I've been doing more competitively with like half marathons and finally actually went back to the same full marathon I did 6 years ago. I decided to try out again because that one was the reason why I quit, because it was so horrible. It's like a 5,200 foot elevation drop. You go from nearly 10,000 feet down to 4,500 feet in elevation.
Yikes.
And I was in such pain when I got done. I was like, I'll never do a marathon again. And so I did it and just about qualified for Boston. So,
wow.
So now if I do half marathons, I try to at least get in the top 3 of my age group every time. And if I don't, I get mad. So I get a little bit competitive. So yeah, definitely a big turnaround from what I was doing when I was much more overweight and that kind of thing.
That's awesome. How do you feel that training for marathons or setting your goal on like a fitness goal kind of changed your mindset?
Yeah, you got it. I love reaching for things. I mean, even when I did competitive ballroom dancing, I was actually used to be one of the nation's top amateur ballroom dancers. And whenever I had competitions and things, like it always pushed me to excel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see the same thing with running too. Is like when I know that there's a race coming up, there's a deadline, there's a certain goal or I'm trying to achieve, right? So naturally I start doing my workouts and my pacing and my tempo runs and my sprints or my long distance runs. I mean, I'm all catering around those things and what started off as just doing it for fun, now it's become more competitive because of that.
That's awesome. Great. So as you can hear from what Chris is saying, is setting a goal is really important, and not even just setting the goal, but having measures in place so that you can help reach that goal. Because like he was saying, like he tempo trains and then speed trains. So when you're like running a marathon, you're not just like, oh, I'm going to go out and run 5 miles or 18 miles. you do have to train at different variables so that you can like maybe reach a different time, or if he's wanting to get into the top 3 of his age bracket, he is going to want to train for that time. Maybe you need to train for like the elevation drop or hills or something like that. So no matter if your goal is a marathon or just getting to the gym 3 days a week, you do need to set those measures like we talked about in episode 1 to really help you reach that goal. So let's talk about your expertise, which is finance. So I really want to get into like fit finance. What are some tips that you could give our listeners today to really help them get their mind around finance, and why is knowing your finances so important to also having a healthy life?
You know, whether you like to admit it or not, I mean, money affects just about everything in your life. You know,
Yes, it does.
I mean, depending on how you see it. I mean, it's either you don't have enough of it. Most people never say they have too much. But most people will usually feel like they don't have enough time, don't have enough money, or something like that. And in many cases, like if people say they don't have enough time, often they'll feel the answer is have more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they feel like they don't have enough time with family or they don't do enough things, it's because there's not enough money that they can prioritize. The truth is money is always abundant. It's everywhere around you. Like it's as abundant as the air we breathe. But unfortunately, we've been raised in a society that says, hey, it's a finite resource, right? There's only so much to go around. You know, if you want to, you know, if you really go in that scarcity mentality around money, it's all about, hey, if I want to be a good person, I got to take less so everybody else can prosper, right? So
Correct.
let me suffer, let me just die, which is dumb, right?
Right.
But pretty much that's what it is, you know, and that's not true. The truth is actually, as you prosper, you can help others prosper too, right?
Yes.
And it's not about
so
an either or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't have to like take from people to win. In fact, I mean, the one thing I always tell people all the time, that the easiest way to make more money is to create more value. Find ways to create a win-win for people, to serve them, solve problems for them. You know, find out it's actually really a lot easier to make money than you probably thought possible.
Yeah, I think that is awesome. So if you guys need to re-listen to that, rewind quick and listen to what Chris just said, because it is all about your mindset around money and how you feel about money. A lot of people think, like, if I just work harder, I'll make more money, or if I just like nose to the grindstone, I'll make more money. And that isn't necessarily true. You do have to make sure that you're giving a lot of value, no matter what your job is. Like, you could be a nurse, you could own your own business. Maybe, you know, you're an employee and you are administrative assistant. Like, how can you like do the best at your job and give the most value? And create like a life that you love too, because maybe you don't love your job, but what are some aspects about your job that you could love maybe, or that you could do better to help everyone around you? And that in turn can give you more money by maybe a bonus or a higher raise, or maybe you'll decide to start your own business doing something that you love. So it is really about changing your mindset around money and seeing like how can you create value to help other people, because in turn that's helping you.
It's true. It's funny. I just saw my Facebook memories from 5 years ago today. There was a guy that worked in banking, you know, and when he worked for that bank, he said like, all right, I need to make more money. My wife decided to quit her business, which means he was the sole provider all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what I can do. Like, there's this promotion up for grabs, but I'm trying to figure out what to do with this. And I said, well, how much would the promotion give you? He said, oh, anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 more a month of income. I'm like, wow. Well, what do you have to do? Oh, well, I'm not totally sure. I'm like, go and ask them, what do I need to do? What kind of value can I create for this company that would merit me a raise or merit me this promotion?
Right.
And so he asked them, and they came back that said, well, you know, your sales, he was a salesperson, right? So he's like, your sales are okay, but it needs to go up, but specifically with these areas, these things, so we need you to sell that. And so I told him as their action items, you know, I said, hey, for the next month, that's all you focus on. Just doing that. It might mean you spend an extra half hour to an hour at work at night, but do it. Like, just go for it. And he did. I mean, 3 weeks later, he got the job. Out of like 100 people, he was one of 2 people that got the promotion. And when they brought him in and told him why, they said, yeah, you were the only person that asked us how to do it, like how you were going to get that promotion. And that impressed us because you weren't the best salesperson, but you actually wanted to know, like you actually communicated with us about that. And that's all it took, you know, and that's true whether you have your business, you work in a job, or or anything in life. I mean, the more you create and serve people, the more it comes back in some sort of currency. It may not be money, but it's going to come back to you in some way.
Exactly. And I think the takeaway from that story also is communication, because I feel like I would rather have someone come in, clarify with me what exactly they could do to create more value versus someone who's just like, is too afraid to come and ask and is just going to try to, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. So
Yeah.
communication is key as well, because then you know what they're looking for and if that's going to fit you too.
Yeah. How many of you have husbands you wish would do that more often, right?
Right. Communication, everybody.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about Money Ripples. So tell us, so Chris is the owner of Money Ripples, which is a coaching company. So tell us a little bit more about who you coach with, what do you coach on, and what kind of value do you give your clients?
Yeah. I mean, you get a pretty good flavor of it when you listen to my podcast, the Chris Miles Money Show, which I invite everybody to check out. But like my big thing is really cash flow. It's how do we get you to, if you're working, work because you want to, not because you have to, right?
Right.
Because everything that's being taught out there by every financial advisor and expert, they're telling you, and I used to be this. I used to be the financial advisor like 18 years ago, right? And then after a few years, I realized it was crap. It doesn't work. Nobody's ever retired well using, doing the typical spend nothing, save everything, save it in your 401ks or IRAs and all that kind of stuff, right? Like it hasn't worked. I've run the numbers. People cannot retire with enough money doing that strategy. Right. But that's the one that's been told to everybody that is common sense, right? It's like people saying, hey, you should just calorie count everything. It's all about macros. You don't have to do anything else. It's like, that's bull. There's different types of calories. There's so many different things,
Right.
So it's the same thing here. And so yeah, when I teach people, it's about how can we actually create freedom now? Because, as we were talking about before we went on the air, the thing is we're living longer, and hopefully, ideally, if you're implementing the things on the show, you're doing things to help you live longer. But the problem is that you live longer, you need more money, right? And on the flip side, also, I get a ton of people that are in their 50s and 60s will say, oh, Chris, where were you 10, 20 years ago when I was in my 30s or 40s or even my 20s when I was thinking, how could I, have more time with my family? Now my kids are grown up or they're teenagers and they don't want to spend any time with me. And now I've lost that key time to be able to spend that time with family. And that's what I try to do with people is try to give them their lives back, right? To give them that choice, those options. Because when you have more money coming in than what's going out, especially when you have a lot more money coming in than's going out, what you have is freedom. You have more cash flow. You have more options. And when you have more options and you have choices, that's when you have real freedom. And that's really the focus. It's like all about creating that ripple effect through your life. And then as you prosper and grow, you can create a ripple effect in other people's lives too and becoming a powerful force for good.
Yeah, I love that. The other thing I really want to mention to our audience is just because the media says something or just because you're taught something in school doesn't mean that it's truth or doesn't mean that you have to follow it. I know I get so many people that come to me and say, oh, I should do keto or, oh, I should do the paleo diet because that's what all the magazines say to do. And just because, again, the media is telling you to do something, it doesn't mean it'll work for you or it doesn't mean it's in your best interest. It's just that they had some great marketing strategies. So the paleo diet is flying off the shelves. Everyone thinks that's a great idea, but it's not necessarily the best for you. Just like maybe doing the traditional route with your finances isn't the best route for you either. And it's not saying 401ks are bad. It's just saying there are other ideas or other avenues that you could try out. So I would highly recommend everyone to check out moneyripples.com, check out Chris's podcast, Chris Miles Money Show, because he talks a lot about alternative ways or different avenues of how you can make additional streams of income or different things you can do with your money so that when you are retired and get older and need that money, what are some different things that you can do that will actually net you more money than maybe just the normal route that the school teaches you or that, some of the magazines teach us. So I would definitely recommend checking out Chris Miles Money Show. And then Chris, do you do like any, do you do like a free, like I do free goal setting calls with my clients. Do you do anything like that we could offer our audience today?
Yeah. I mean, I usually encourage people first and foremost, check out the podcast because you'll start to get a good flavor of the things I teach. Cause I teach people how to do alternative investments, right? Like doing
Mm-hmm.
things like real estate or other things that are better answers than the 401k, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then if you've listened to that and you say, I feel like I feel like somehow Chris might be able to help me, then yeah, shoot me an email, just chris@moneyripples.com. And yeah, I'll do like a little consultation and do like an evaluation and see, hey, let's see if I can do something. Because the truth is, I don't want to take you on as a client unless I know I can at least double your money back within the first year, of whatever you hire me for. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
that's the thing is that, it's all about creating that cash flow. And, I actually had a client, a different client up in Minnesota, that I remember he was a chiropractor. He was getting burned out in his business and he was like, hey, I'm just paycheck to paycheck now. And after we looked at things, it's like, wait, we don't have to do anything with investing. If we actually just refinance your debts and things like that and, and rework these things, we can actually free up $50,000 a year or over 4,000 a month.
Wow.
And he's like, what? Like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, well, yeah, we got to cash out your IRA to do it. He's like, oh, I can't cash out the IRA. That's my retirement. I'm like, it's 50,000 a year. It only takes $100,000. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we finally did. It was his wife that convinced him because his wife got it right away. It took the
Yeah.
husband a lot longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's seriously, not only did it free up 50,000 a year, but because he relaxed and because he didn't feel so stressed anymore, he actually started bringing in more patients into his practice. He made
Mm-hmm.
an extra like 2,000 to 3,000 a month. It was just within the next few months because he was happier.
Right.
So with everything, I mean, he made an extra 70, 80,000 a year just to that stupid money that's sitting around doing nothing, in an
Mm-hmm.
IRA. Like it's amazing what you can create if you just get creative with the money you do have.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I know a lot of people, you maybe don't feel like you're financially literate, which is why it's great to have that coach because there's someone that can look through your finances and really say, well, maybe you can do this over here, or maybe we can, put the stuff together over here and do something different. Because if you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
so you might as well get the coach, kind of like how you need a coach for nutrition coaching and fitness. If you don't know what you're doing there, you need a coach in other areas of your life as well if you don't know what you're doing there, just so that you can lead your best life going forward and be happy and healthy and thrive. So thanks so much, Chris, for joining us today, and join us for our next Fit Freedom podcast.